A little over a year ago, I made the Armando server Iceberg, and this is what it looked like back in March of 2021. But since then, there have been quite a few changes. So here is the sort of updated version. Everything in orange is something that I'm going to cover that has been updated, and everything in yellow is something that I'm going to cover that no longer exists. So I'm not going to cover every single thing on here, because that would take too long, and there's also new things I'm going to cover later. So let's get into this. At the very top, we have VCs are never used. Now, VCs are still rarely ever used, but I wouldn't say they're never used. They're pretty much used now. And this is sort of not entirely true. It just goes through phases. Like some weekends, they'll be used all the time. Other weekends, they won't be used at all. Mods are inactive. This is kind of true still. A lot of the mods are pretty inactive, but there's a couple that are really active now because they've been people who actually got mod by being active in the server. Curves wins. At the time of recording the last video, it was true that Curve had won twice, but it was also true that Boop had won twice. And it's now true that Zoro has won twice and Dark. So Curve still has his 2 wins, obviously, but there's a lot of people now who have won twice. Below the surface, we have 2 things that no longer exist and 1 thing that has been updated. Video Game Progress is a channel that used to exist and was only accessible for Mitchell, Carson, and I, but somewhere along the way we deleted it because it was pointless and no one used it, and now we just have a group chat, which still no one uses. Chad Venger Takeover. This is something that technically is still happening because there's a lot of Chad Vengers in the server, but it's not really to the extent that it used to be, where every active person was a Chad Venger. Now it's a little bit more balanced. The Director of Sales role. So technically this role doesn't even exist anymore, but it's sort of like in spirit exists because there seems to always be a salesman that is way more active than everybody else. Even when that salesman inevitably gets promoted to human resources, someone seems to take their spot. Sinking down a bit deeper, we have, why does Derp Ferret have so many roles? And this question doesn't really exist anymore because Derp Ferret isn't even in the server anymore. I actually think that Derp Ferret left the server or was kicked out, ironically due to inactivity, which is funny because they had a ton of roles, so you would assume that they would be active, but not really. Jack hates Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This is, just wanted to update this because not only is this actually not false, but it's even truer now. So this is actually, I would say this is definitely true. In fact, the only thing I would do to update this is maybe actually put it higher on the iceberg, just because of how apparent I make it that I really don't like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And in the bottom pits, we have 5 things that no longer exist. The first of them is a gift for Gyarados. This is the thing that I talked about where if Gyarados were to join the server, I would immediately give him a high mod role. And he joined the server, and I didn't really give him the role, just because I didn't really trust him that much. And he's no longer in the server now, so it's about all there is to that. The Ergo Zoro Paradox. I think I've kind of cooled off on how much I've hated hero mains, and it doesn't really make sense to, actually dislike someone because of who they play, so it's not really a thing anymore. Plus, Zoro's like assistant to the regional manager, so, I mean, even if I were to even think that this existed, it's clearly not being enforced because Zoro has a lot of power. Boop's assassination. So, Boop, he did get assassinated at some point, but then he got brought back to life. He's back in the server now. He never talks, but he's back. Hayden is spared. It's funny because Hayden isn't spared anymore. I think I kicked him at some point due to inactivity. But it should be noted that a lot of those things that I used to do with kicking people for inactivity, I kind of stopped doing that at a point because I figured it didn't really accomplish anything. People are still going to be inactive. And finally, Chad Venger censorship. This doesn't really happen anymore. I mean, I don't really try and prevent people from joining the server or things like that. There's not really anything that they have, like any special permissions or anti-permissions that they have. It's normal now. And now we're going to talk about the new things that have been added in the past year. And at the very top, we have 2 things that are really popular in the server now. One of them is the Fictional Woman channel, which Mitchell randomly made one day. And it's just kind of there. And then people started to use it a little bit. And then we did a podcast about it. And it's been really fun. We've had a lot of really inspirational and spiritual and philosophical moments in that channel. Hard vids and hard picks. So the hard pick contest was something that started back in October. Around February, I got kind of burned out, so I gave it up and had Curve rank it instead. And now I rank the hard vids, which is, I really enjoy doing that. It's really fun. It's as fun as the hard picks used to be for me. Just below the surface, we have the podcasts. Carson Mitchell and I run Backstreet Boys podcasts, and we try to do them somewhat regularly, but that has not been the case because in the last year we've done like 5. So we got to get more on top of that, but they're really fun. And the best part about it is that we hold it on the stage, so then a lot of people can come and join and listen. And then if they want to join the actual stage and talk, if we invite them, they can. So that's been a really fun thing for the server. There's a new channel I made, and it's a general chat, but it's general and then smiling with 3 hearts emojis. And the idea is that everything you say, you end it with a smiling with 3 hearts emoji. And I thought of this idea because I realized it would create really, really funny out of context moments. And it has so far. There's a lot of really funny things in there. Sinking down a bit deeper, we have Jack Down Terribly. I have been known to be caught down pretty bad in moments in the server. A lot of them have been in the out of context lyrics channel, so I would argue that that sort of is a protection. But regardless, I have been caught down bad. I have been caught down terrible. I've really even been caught down astronomically at some times. February 26th, 2022. This is sort of an eerie day in the server, because a lot of things happened that day. It's not really worth it to dig up everything that happened, but basically the server went to crap for an evening, and it was entirely the fault of one group of people, as is the case with most things on the internet. The solution to all of this was just to shitpost, and that's what the Chad Vengers did, and they were able to beat the server drama, which I put in quotes because I think anyone who starts drama on the internet needs to go outside and touch grass. But the Chad Vengers, nonetheless, were able to beat the server drama, and so luckily we haven't had an instance like that ever since, even though it's only been like a month and a half. Game Freak. Now, Game Freak, he is like what Cletus used to be. Cletus was the anime titty scholar, and now Game Freak has taken that position. He is the best poster of memes in the entire server. In the Hard Vids Challenge, Game Freak has won all but 2 weeks. It is honestly kind of amazing how often he wins that. All in all, Game Freak is an amazing member of the server. He's incredibly funny, he's super active, he always posts really funny memes. Every time he contributes to the podcast, it's always much funnier. So we love having Game Freak, and we're so glad he's here. And at the very bottom, we have a few new things. First, we have announcing masturbation. Now, there is a video that I found in the Apan Discord that is extremely hilarious. So basically, this wasn't actually a problem in our server, apart from me, but I sort of have created this problem in a lot of the servers I've been in. Actually, in my own server, it's not really that big of a problem. But it's funny because ever since I posted the video, now it has actually become a problem. But it's, it's really fun. We get along in the server. CBT therapy. So one time last year, I was in my psychology class, and there was this thing they were talking about, and it was like cognitive balance therapy or something like that. Basically, the acronym for it was CBT. So I posted it in the chat because it's like really funny, and then Carson said CBT therapy. So now we have, cock and ball torture therapy as like a pinned message in our chat. And a lot of us, we really like saying cock and ball torture. It's really funny. WEC. One time Master said in a post, WEC, then stop doing that. And he says that it was a typo, but I actually looked up WEC, and apparently there's an Urban Dictionary entry for it. And what it means is it's a synonym for cool, awesome, or really neato. And it is particularly used in the country of Canada. So what I am assuming is that Master is actually from Canada. Because we have been known to have an issue with people lying about where they're actually from. Like, for instance, Curve claims he's from Louisiana, even though I swear he has said that he's from Minnesota. And now Master, I don't know where he claims he's from, but it's clear that Master actually lives in Canada. Pokebot is broken. I don't understand this because every time I use the Pokebot, I catch a Pokemon, right? But apparently, the things that I'm catching aren't actual Pokemon. And it doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like I'm doing it correctly. I know a lot about Pokemon, so it should work, but, the Pokebot is broken. Weekly dick hardness tier list. Now, when we first started doing the hard picks, Curve suggested the alternative option of having weekly dick hardness contests. We haven't explored this option yet, but it is definitely still on the table, and I'm thinking that maybe when summer break hits and a lot of us are back in town, we'll do it. Last but not least, we have Cockbean Bay. This comes from a meme that we made during the first Armando server meetup, where basically Nick and Mitchell were just saying cock the entire time and come, and it was really funny. And at one point, someone just randomly said, "There is no cum in Cockbean Bay," and we all immediately knew in our minds that it was a reference to the meme, "There is no war in Boston to say." And so we made a meme about it, we spread it around, and we made a channel about it. It was sort of going to be a channel where we talked about the meetup and how fun it was and all that. Unfortunately, people started posting yiff in that channel, so we just deleted it. But it is still true to this day that there is no cum in Cockbean Bay. Thank you for watching.